is a passionate philosophy professor,
fitness professional,
and motivational speaker. She helps strengthen the body, but she also helps strengthen the mind.
The mind?
The mind. For well over a decade, she has led philosophy courses within the university system of Georgia.
She leads group fitness classes in Atlanta,
as well as leading one-on-one personal training sessions. Let's all squat wisely with Kristen Hester.
Welcome and thank you for listening on today. Today we will have a wonderful discussion with a young woman who has a very profound story, a story that I think will encourage anyone to ask themselves, are they really living in their truth? Are you really pleased with where you are in your life right now? Are you satisfied day by day with where you are, or do you feel like you should be doing something dramatically different with your life, but you just haven't tapped into the courage to execute it? This young woman who I will speak to later on today, she literally one day just left the United States. I mean, she left. She sold her car. She just pretty much gave away a lot of her possessions, and she decided to continue her life journey outside of the United States. Her story is very interesting, and a lot of the insight that she shares, I think, will be beneficial to a lot of listeners. Of course, your journey and whatever your truth is will not be consistent with what our guest's truth is and what she feels her journey should be. But instead of comparing your journey to her journey, I say focus more on the courage that she tapped into to radically travel the path that she felt that she should be on. And maybe her example will encourage you to search deep within so you can find the courage to live out the truth that you feel you need to live out for your life. So get ready, because after this message, we will return with our guest. She goes by the name of Moca, and I'm sure she has something that she will say that will speak to something very profound deep within you. So stay tuned. Do a few squats if you need to, but be sure to come back right after this message.
Jordis A1 Solutions has a fitness solution just for you. For your personal training needs, we serve clients who reside in Atlanta, Georgia, and nearby cities. We also help clients to achieve their goals online as well. To inquire, visit Jordis.com. Jordis is Jortis.
You are listening to the Squat Wisely podcast, and you are in for a treat. I'm in for a treat as well, I should say. I am very excited today. I get to speak to a very powerful woman, powerful from my perspective of watching her life through social media. She is a young woman who started her life out in the United States, and she has since ended up in Costa Rica, the lovely Costa Rica. But the whole journey in between is a story, I say, of bravery, strength, and courage. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the show over to our guest today, Moca. Welcome to the show.
Hola. Thank you so much for having me on. It's really, really an honor to be on the show.
Well, thank you for accepting the invitation to be on the show. We are all learning about you, so I'm so honored to really find out more about your journey from the early years up till now. So tell us a little bit about who is Moca, where are you from? Tell us about your upbringing, your childhood, anything you're willing to share. Tell us all about it.
Okay, so Moca is a nickname that I go by now. It more fits my personality. But my actual name is Ebony Anderson, just so you all know. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. I was adopted at 1.5 by my parents. So I was raised by two parents. I have 2 older sisters, an older brother, and a little sister. And my 2 older sisters are very, very, very they're way older than me, way older than me. And then my brother's like a year and a half and older than me. And my little sister's a year and a half younger than me. She did not get adopted into our family, the little sister. She got adopted into another family. So my brother and I are actual brother and sister, biologically. My two older sisters are my parents' kids. But yeah, so I grew up with my mom and my dad. My mom was always really strong, hardworking. I really never saw her much, honestly, my adopted mom and dad. But my adopted mom, I didn't really see much. But my dad, I did. He was more like the mom, and my mom was more like dad. And we grew up on my dad's land that he inherited. It was very green in Cincinnati, Ohio. It was very green, had a lot of trees. It was a lot of land. There were woods, like with bike trails. And my dad built us tree houses, and we had a garden. And, we just played with the kids in the neighborhood, like it was awesome. I mostly played with my brother's friends. There weren't too many little girls around to play with, except for my cousin. And so I really think that because my dad was into gardening and he was home a lot, he spent a lot of time with us. He taught us a lot of things. I think that really catapulted me into really wanting to eat healthy and just really connect with nature.
Very nice, because I know when I was speaking to you before we started, you were telling me how even from when you were young, you always had that desire and that connection to want to be outside of the U.S. So tell us about that. Like, when did you really first feel that feeling that, man, I have to get out of the United States? Tell us about when that first began with inside of you.
Honestly, I would have to say from the time I can remember. From the time I can remember, so maybe 3, I've always wanted to travel. Don't get me wrong, growing up in the United States wasn't horrible for me, simply because, like I said, I was kind of sheltered, I only spent time with my family, my close family relatives, and I stayed on my parents' land most of the time. They always had me in really good schools, but I was just always a curious kid. I always just wanted to go and see other lands. And when I would learn about them in school, it was just so interesting to me. Like, wow, there are people on the other side of the planet that like eat rice and fish all the time, or, eat like food wrapped in seaweed paper. You know what I mean? Like, I just thought that was so strange. And just like the different languages and the pictures, all the pictures that I would see in my books, textbooks at school and on TV, of like mountains and clouds that hang lower than the mountains and big trees and oceans and stuff. But I think what really helped me to really want to get out of the States is my parents were really big on vacationing, and we vacationed always in the States, but it kind of opened my mind to traveling, and really just wanting to get out and see the world. 'Cause that's where it started. It more started from me just wanting to get out and see the world. And then it developed into me wanting to get out of the United States.
And that's the thing that I think a lot of people will want to hear a lot about. I know a lot of people look at you, and as I said earlier, the only word I can think about to describe you is brave. So many of us, I don't think it's that we're so connected to the United States, but I think a lot of us are very much connected to our family, connection, our mom, our dad, even our siblings. And a lot of people probably feel a lot like you, Moca. They want to separate themselves from the United States, but they don't know how to find that, strength and courage that you've been able to find. So tell us a little bit about that. Like, how did you tap into the strength to not really walk away from the States, but the people who you have bonds with here in the United States, and advance forward into your journey into Costa Rica?
I think what really started it was once I became an adult. Like I said, from early on, I wanted to travel. So I had been, constantly manifesting, my route out, And when I say manifesting, I mean like meditating, like deeply thinking all the time. No matter what I'm doing, I could be busy or I could be sitting alone. Whatever I was doing, I was always thinking about, once I got a chance to get out of the United States, I'm going to go. And like I said, at first it started out as visiting. So I think for some people, they do just actually need to just visit places, like they need to kind of take it one step at a time. Like maybe they might take a trip to the Caribbean, or maybe they might take a trip to Africa, or maybe they might take a trip to South America for like a week. And it'll really give them a taste, and they'll be away from their family. A week, I would say, is a pretty good amount of time. Even 10 days, even a month, that's a pretty good amount of time. And then you really start to feel those detachments from your family. And that's basically how my journey went. I went into the military, the Air Force, when I got out of high school. I went straight into the Air Force, and I was stationed in Florida. And then all of a sudden I got orders, or actually I auditioned to be a part of a USO show, which is like singing and dancing for the Air Force. And so that allowed me, and I did that for a year. So for a whole year, I was traveling with the United States Air Force, singing and dancing. And I became homesick. I started to miss my family and friends. So once I came back, I spent time with them. But any chance I got, I still had that itch to want to get out. So any chance I got, I visited different parts of the United States, and then eventually my family got used to the idea that I was not going to be in Cincinnati any longer. Like I was not going to come back and live there anymore. And once they got used to the idea, it became so much easier. And the more of the world that I saw, the easier it became. Just getting out, traveling, and experiencing things, experiencing people. A lot of those times when I was traveling, I was by myself. And that's the hardest, when you're by yourself, because you really get to know who you are. And I think really it all starts with knowing who you are. This whole journey that I am on, this courage that I am pulling from, is because I decided to take the time out to know me. And when I say knowing me, I mean, go to cafeastrology.com, look up your birth chart. It's free. Cafeastrology.com. Go to it. Look up your birth chart. It's a free birth chart service. They have a free birth chart service. Cafeastrology.com. Go there. Put in your information. Put in your time of birth, your date, your year, the city you were born in. Put all that in. Read your chart. Learn who you are. That is the first step in getting any kind of courage to do anything, is to know who you are.
And speaking on that, when you finally settled into Costa Rica, what newfound information did you discover about Moca once you made that transition?
Once I made it to Costa Rica, what did I learn about myself? Well, I learned that I felt a lot better. I felt a hell of a lot better. I mean, the sun is so rich here. The information that my body, my skin, my mind was getting from the sun, it was just magnificent. It's not like the sun in the States. It's richer. There's something additional in it. And I think it's UVB, because the United States doesn't have UVB. They only have UVA. Or maybe I'm getting that confused, but it only has one of the UVs. And here it has both. And both of the UVs are important because they help each other out. They facilitate in processes when it comes to melanin production, when it comes to any kind of production of any kind of minerals or vitamins in your skin. It really helps in that. So that was nice. The fruit here is so amazing. The animals, I did realize I always advocate for the bugs in everything I talk about, because bugs are important. But I did realize that bugs get on my nerves sometime. Like they really do, because they get all up in your tent and they bite you. And but what did I learn about myself? I learned that I was home. I learned that being in the tropics is home. I never felt comfortable in the States, really. There was always something. I was either itchy or coughing or snorting, or I don't know. I was always uncomfortable and sweating, and it was just not fun. Here, there's always a nice breeze coming in. The sun is beautiful. It's hot. Don't get me wrong. It gets hot. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, which I think you saying how you felt so much better
I would definitely say that is one of the ups if we asked